Is your base always falling under the rush? I'll talk you through the early game strats that'll get you back on your feet and teching up to Tier 3 in no time. Plus, learn a few of my favorite rush strategies. I'll show you how to strike first and win hard. And behold, the greatest scouting unit in Red Alert 3. The Super Reactor? It's another edition of Red Alert 3 Honors. So burn those textbooks and listen up, comrades. This is Command School. You're watching Command School. I'm Greg Kasavin. The Command & Conquer team here at EALA are burning the midnight oil to bring you an amazing campaign expansion with Command & Conquer Red Alert 3 Uprising. But nothing slows down Command School. Red Alert 3 matches are heating up all across the globe, and strategies are becoming more and more ferocious. If you don't know how to survive an early game dude swarm, you'll never get to execute your APOC tank bullfrog combo later on. Now, you could spend your entire day in no rush matches, but if you're tired of being a big wuss, here's some of my favorite early game anti-rush strats. First, we'll take a look at build orders in Casual 1. The Allies have a few excellent options for early game defense. Unlike the Empire, they can build walls anywhere, so an obvious option is to throw up a few at key entrances to your base to protect from the infantry rush. But also think tactically. When playing against the Soviets, you're particularly vulnerable to an early game terror drone attack on your refineries. In this case, get walls up around your refineries quickly, or you'll be out of the game before you know it. The only time these walls aren't effective? The Allied Vindicator Rush, which means you either need to build an airfield and pray you beat your opponent to Apollos, or you can build a few multi-gunner turrets. These cheap base defenses are the Allied player's best defense against any kind of rush. On their own, they act much like the IFV, firing rockets at ground and air targets. But they're also variable rush destroyers. Infantry rush? Throw a peacekeeper into a turret to produce a dude-killing superweapon. Vindicators coming in fast? Throw a javelin soldier inside and take them down twice as quickly. You can also use these as an offensive weapon when moving your MCV deep into enemy territory. So, when playing as the Allies, make sure you build a boot camp first with at least one power plant, then get walls around your refineries and a turret on the ground, or at least waiting in the build queue to deploy. And if you want to vary it up for a rush strat yourself, throw the early game airfield into that mix. We'll cover a Vindicator rush in Casual 2. With judicious use of your early game credits, you can make the Allied base strong against ferocious attacks early on. The Soviets have an easier time against the rush. They're a hard faction to take down in the early game because of all their base defenses and infantry-chomping war bears. But they've got a lot of variability when it comes to build order. It all comes down to how you want to attack. Swarm the map with infantry and focus on building your super reactor. Get terror drones on the map by foregoing a refinery and building up your war factory right away. Or just protect and defend while you get birds in the air and just hope your opponent doesn't attack hard. You can also use your Crusher Crane, a special structure on the Red Menace's side that will open up a second build queue at your base while letting you get your MCV on the map to spread refineries around. It's a big dip in credits in the early game though, so only build it if you know you can defend it. This is particularly useful on 1v1 maps like Temple Prime and Snowplow, where the separate refineries are spread so far apart. It also gets your MCV out of your base, so if you do fall to an early rush, you can still build a backup base out on the open seas. As the Empire of the Rising Sun, the name of the game is having units on the map. Imperial base defenses are excellent when active, but they take time to build from nanocores and are extremely vulnerable. Collectors can protect themselves from terror drones, but not against a real infantry rush. So build a barracks early and get some mixed infantry on the board, or you can see your base destroyed as you pray for Tengus. And remember, Imperial engineers can be applied to their own buildings for an automatic recharge of health. So use engineers wisely to protect from an early air rush. This is especially important since the Empire has no Tier 1 anti-air infantry except for the lightweight burst drone. The Empire also can't build much in the way of walls, so spend those credits on extra units. With the Empire of the Rising Sun, the best defense is a good offense, so let's take a good look at their options for a rush attack in Casual 2. The Empire is a playground of options in the early game, but not all of them are obvious. An infantry rush can be a great idea. Building 2 dojos at your base and about 7 of each infantry unit can give you a truly devastating strike force early on, but it'll slow your development and cost you early game Tengus. You can also leave your base completely defenseless if you move the force, which is a calculated risk at best. So think about the strat in a different way. Rather than building the cores next to each other, run them clear across the map to important areas, like ore mines or garrisonable structures. Get out an engineer and make sure he's not taken down by dogs or bears. If you do get an animal camped outside a dojo, stop building, but do not sell that structure. Instead, switch tactics. Pump out as many flying burst drones as you can afford, preferably in sets of 4, and fly each pack of 4 to an area near the enemy's refineries. You can latch them one by one onto an ore collector and then self-destruct the drone with the F key, doing a chunk of damage to the vehicle. 4 of them are enough to destroy an ore collector and set your opponent's game back with a swift kick to the resources. Soviets have a similar rush with a terror drone, but it only takes 2. One to keep the thing in line with its secondary ability, and the other to infect it with its primary attack. This way, you stop collection, kill the collector, and have a second drone to defend the primary one from an infantry attack. You can also be bold and send a squad of 5 or so flak troopers into a base with a few bears. Assuming your enemy doesn't have a fleet of Riptides or Tengus, this strike force can take down surrounding infantry and destroy structures in seconds. This can be an early game base killer for someone unprepared for infantry. But the most powerful rush on the battlefield has to be the Allied Vindicator rush, which can obliterate an enemy base before they even have refineries up. 4 can nearly drop any structure, and 8 will level an enemy base. If you can keep your opponent's air forces and anti-air turrets in check, you're in for a win. Now you should have a good starting arsenal to dominate your Red Alert 3 early game matches. And if you've got a creative rush that we've missed, email us at commandschool@ea.com and we might feature your strat in next month's episode. Speaking of submitted matches, it's time to see what craziness the community has unleashed with this month's edition of Command School Honors. Our first Honors strat comes from Aviv Megaviv Atias, who gives us a nice spin on last month's Konyard Chrono Swap strat. For those who don't remember, you can engineer rush an opponent's Konyard and then use Chrono Swap to steal it away and get a mobile expansion base. But what if your enemy packs up his Konyard before an engineer can get to it? No problem for Megaviv. Just chronosphere the MCV right into your base and make sure you have cryocopters waiting for it. Freeze it down and take a shot with a Peacekeeper. You'll still take down that enemy Konyard, even if you don't get its benefits. Next, Daring Dreamer offers up a strat he calls the Iron Wall. Tired of seeing your ground forces torn to shreds by bombers and airstrikes? Throw 2 or 3 engineers into a few multi-gunner IFVs and set them to repair an assault destroyer while it has its secondary ability, the Black Hole Armor, active. This causes all fire in the vicinity to be directed toward the destroyer, which is constantly being repaired by the IFVs. Throw a few Mirage and Guardian tanks under the shield, and you have a mobile force that will take next to no damage unless faced with overwhelming firepower. Usually that'd be it for honors, but we just had to share this one. Daring Dreamer is tired of the same old scouting game. Bears, dogs, and dolphins just don't cut it anymore. He needed something bigger, more powerful. His answer? The Soviet Super Reactor Scout. Just rush a super reactor to the center of the map or near your enemy's base. It can't be destroyed by your enemy without taking massive losses, and it can be used as a bomb to take out large sections of an enemy base if they're properly placed. But don't try this often. We've tried this strat a few times here at the CNC TV offices, and it seems like too much trouble for too little reward. Still, for thinking outside the box, Daring Dreamer gets a second strat on this month's edition of Command School Honors. Well, that's all the time we have for you this month on Command School. Be sure to send in your replays and strats to commandschool@ea.com for a chance to be featured in next month's Honors. And don't miss next Friday's brand new episode of Battlecast Primetime, where I'll take you through a PS3 exclusive map for Red Alert 3. Dev tested, player approved. For Command & Conquer TV, I'm Greg Kasab.